Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And even at practice, he's intense. That's just who he is. Intensity in the dictionary. You see a picture of Kevin Steele. Man, I love the guy. I'm glad he's back at Bama. They'll really turn that defense around.
I tell you what, I'll take Eric Anders' word for it. He played for the guy in 2007 and 2008. Of course, 2009, he was a great player on that national championship team. Actually, it was his forced fumble that secured the victory against Texas late in that game in Alabama's first national championship in the BCS title game out in Pasadena against Texas. And, of course, now he's a very successful UFC fighter. So he is a competitor. He knows Kevin Steele. Good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV, presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. And after a couple of weeks by myself on the other side of the studio, finally got Rodney healed up. And you gotta get the Gary Harris plan, man. When I get down, buddy, I come flying back. Took you a couple of weeks, but you feeling better?
Feeling a lot better.
Good to have you back, Rod. It's hard doing the show without you. We're glad you're here, and we have got a lot to cover. It is about reunions tonight. A reunion for Rodney and Gary Harris, and a reunion for Kevin Steele and Alabama football. Nick Saban turned to an old friend and colleague as his new defensive coordinator on Sunday. Again, none of these hires have officially been announced, neither the offensive end, the defensive coordinator by Alabama, but Kevin Steele is the choice. That'll be his third different stint at Alabama under Nick Saban. The 64-year-old Steele is a 39-year coaching veteran who spent last season as the Miami defensive coordinator under Mario Cristobal, another former Tide assistant. Steele replaces Pete Golding, who left last month to become the defensive coordinator at Ole Miss under Lane Kiffin. Steele was Saban's first defensive coordinator at Alabama in 2007, served as the inside linebackers coach in 2008, and after a stop at Clemson as the defensive coordinator, he returned to UA in 2013 for 2 seasons. Then he went to the LSU Tigers as the defensive coordinator, then to Auburn as the DC, where he did a really good job, had a stint as the interim coach there, went to Tennessee, was the interim coach there when he was hired by Jerry Pruitt, never coached a game in his last season at Miami. All right, Rodney, let's get to it. I know everybody's dying to get your opinion. We don't get to know too many coaches here. It's hard to have access to assistant coaches. I've gotten to know Kevin Steele a little bit. Love the guy. I know you talked to him. Very personable. Tough love is the way I describe his coaching style with his players. He's tough on them, but they know they love him. I know there were a lot of other names, including Pruitt, Todd Grantham, some others that were probably more just being put out there by folks. But I think Kevin Steele is a great choice at this time for Alabama football.
You know, a lot of people talk about numbers. They want to throw out numbers and all of these types of things. I don't think you judge Kevin Steele by numbers at all. I think he's a fantastic selection for this job for a lot of the reasons you laid out there. His experience, his toughness, his intensity, his familiarity with Nick Saban's system. The players love him. And I'm not talking about as a buddy. I'm talking about as a coach, a guy that is a mentor, a developer of talent. He's a guy, Kevin Steele, to me, in this time was a really perfect hire. I know a lot of people wanted Jeremy Pruitt. We've talked about Jeremy Pruitt weeks on end. Jeremy Pruitt wasn't available, but Kevin Steele was. And I think he brings a lot of the same qualities that Pruitt would have brought.
He'll be 65 soon, which still means he's, 6.5 years behind Nick Saban. But there is a thought process that's making the rounds out there, Rodney, on the internet and with sports talk radio and so forth, that Kevin Steele, if you will, is a placeholder, a stopgap until Alabama can hire Jeremy Pruitt. Have you heard that, and do you think there's anything to it?
Look, I've heard that, but I don't believe that at all. Kevin Steele, first of all, that's unfair to him. I mean, he's a great coach in his own right. And I can tell you right now, Jeremy Pruitt doesn't appreciate that. I think he believes that Kevin Steele's a fantastic coach, a fantastic hire for this job. Look, he's way too experienced and way too good of a coach to be a placeholder. He's a guy that, again, how long will he be here? Who knows? But at the same time, I don't think there's any intention of him being a placeholder for any other coach.
All right. Charles Kelly had already left to become the defensive coordinator for Coach Prime out at Colorado. And, of course, Coach Armstrong, young coach coming in from Southern Miss to be on the defensive staff. Do you anticipate any more changes on the defensive side of the football for Alabama?
Well, right now you've got, obviously in the front, you've got Freddie Roach on the defensive line. You've got Coleman Hutzler, who's still there at outside linebackers. You've got a new coach that was hired, Austin Armstrong, as a defensive assistant is the title. But, he's coached linebackers. Kevin Steele's expertise, his linebackers. He's also coached some on the defensive line. Got a lot of front people, Gary. You need a safeties coach. Obviously, all those front guys can't stay. You wonder where's Coleman Hutzler going to be next year? Will he be on the field? Will he be off the field? Will he be somewhere else? I mean, we'll see. Now, you and I both know this. There's a lot of talk about Freddie Roach possibly being a target for D'Amico Ryans as an assistant on the NFL level. Again, that hasn't materialized in terms of an offer. Could it? Yeah, it certainly could. Would Freddie consider it? Possibly. I mean, he's certainly capable and has the resume to be there in the NFL. But again, where does he want to be? And I think that would be the big question if that opportunity arose.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Now to offense. And Notre Dame offensive coordinator Tommy Rees accepted the same position at Alabama. Again, neither hire has been made official yet by UA. Last Friday, Rees informed Notre Dame that he was leaving his alma mater, where he played, and of course was an assistant for 6 years. The last 3 as the offensive coordinator. The neat thing about this guy, Rod, is that he's only 30 years old. He's already got 3 years coordinating experience. Now, he was wooed last offseason by LSU and Miami. Of course, Brian Kelly went to LSU and offered him a job. He didn't go. He stayed. Obviously felt like the time was right when you get a call from Nick Saban to join a program that's won 6 national championships since 2009. You jump on board. Give me your feelings on Tommy Rees as a new offensive coordinator at Alabama.
Well, first of all, when Brian Kelly wants you and Nick Saban want you, those two right there tell you all you really need to know about the guy as a coach in terms of what people think about him. These are two of the, obviously Nick Saban, and then I think Brian Kelly's also an elite coach as well. And Gary, I think, those guys wanting you on their staff as their offensive coordinator should tell you a lot. I think he's a guy that, obviously he's young, but I think he relates extremely well to the players. He's a guy that I think has a really good history in terms of developing players at positions. And, the one thing I really like about him that we've picked up on from a lot of Notre Dame people, a lot of the feedback we get is he's really good at play designer. Mm-hmm. So I think he'll be able to take advantage of all this talent that Alabama has, put them in position to make plays.
Couple of points I want to hit with you. First, he was apparently, if you believe media reports, that he was the second choice of Nick Saban. Ryan Grubb from Washington reportedly turned the job down. Should that bother Alabama people?
Well, no, I tell you why, Gary, because we really don't know that, the way Nick Saban conducts searches. A few years ago, everyone had Chip Long, as you remember, targeted to be the guy. He was supposedly going to interview for the job, and then all of a sudden, Steve Sarkisian was hired. And if you remember, Gary, in that 2019 season when they brought Sark in at that time, the response was not good.
Because he'd been over in Atlanta and had not done well with Falcons.
And also a lot of people, for some reason, held that one game against him in the championship against Clemson. So, no, it does. I don't really perceive this as a second choice.
The other point, and you already touched on this, is, again, it just speaks to who Nick Saban is, what this Alabama program is, that he would leave his alma mater, number one, and that last year he turned down Brian Kelly, who he had played for and coached for, to go to LSU, yet he's willing to make the move to Alabama. Now, this is not meant as a shot at LSU. It's just a fact. He obviously views Alabama with Nick Saban as a better job than LSU with Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I think when he looks at this too, Gary, it's a great opportunity, obviously. I think Alabama's recruited extremely well. They have a lot of young talent offensively. And let's be honest, you look at Notre Dame, again, obviously an elite program, but they really haven't had as much talent offensively for him to work with, to develop. To be fair about it, the skill players, I think he comes here, he can have a field day with the talent that he has.
All right. Exciting times. I think when you change coordinators, at least until they coach in a game, everybody, I think even the people that were sluggish about these hires will get on board. And, of course, spring football will be here before you know it. Of course, Alabama football players aspire to win championships, get a degree, and play in the National Football League. The Senior Bowl is a step in that direction. It was this past Saturday down in Mobile. Crimson Tide had a total of 6 players playing in the game. They had 3 others that withdrew from the game. Tight end Campbell, too, was the only skill player in the game on offense, and he had a couple of catches for 30 yards. There you see it. I think he's got a good chance in the NFL. He's got the size, got the athleticism. Both interior defensive linemen, DJ Dale and Byron Young, were able to have 2 tackles each. And DeMarco Helms and Emil Ekiyor did not play Saturday. Ekiyor sustained an injury Thursday during Senior Bowl practice. Helms didn't play, but still, Alabama sending more guys onto the NFL. That's what it's all about. Of course, the 2 top prospects, of course, are Bryce Young and Will Anderson Jr. Well, still to come on Tighter Insider TV, we'll recap Alabama basketball's road win over LSU this past Saturday down in Baton Rouge. And we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets as we are going to come back with more TITV. That phone number will pop up on your screen here in just a moment, 205-348-WVOA. That's 348-9882. Or you can go ahead and shoot us an email if you would like. We got another segment, but we'll be getting a phone call shortly right here on Tighter Insider TV.
I basically told my agent to get it worked out here. I don't want to go anywhere, so I don't even know if anybody called him because he didn't let me know if they did. So we really didn't have any talks with anybody else, to be honest. We're in social media day, so everybody wants to put their 2 cents in out there. And people, you try to use it against you in recruiting. And is he going to be there or not? I've been asked that by recruits. The answer is real easy now.
Yeah, it is. Real easy now. Welcome back to TITV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. With Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris, and we just heard from head coach Nate Oats, Alabama men's basketball coach. He wants to be at Alabama. Alabama wants him to be here, and he's got 5 million reasons that he's going to stay for a while. Rodney, he gets the extension done, and it runs through 2029. As I said, it'll average out. The contract will, at the end, at $5 million a year. And listen, it is what it is. I mean, I remember when Mark Godfrey got $1 million a year, and we said, whoa, Mike Shue was making $900. But coaching salaries have shot up, and it's much better, I think, to spend money on a guy who's proven he can do it at your school. He's got him number 3 in the country right now, 10-0 in the SEC, than to lose a guy, and then you have to try to go out and pay somebody else to come in. He wants to be here, like I said. Alabama, Greg Byrne want him to be here. It's a perfect fit to me.
It's great that they got it done so quickly, Gary. Again, really at the kind of the nipped everything in the bud, a lot of these rumors about other jobs and all of these things. Because like Nate Oats said, listen, opposing schools,
That's
when
right.
you're hot like Alabama's hot right now, what they want to put out there is, hey, Nate Oats isn't sticking around, but it's good that he is. This is finalized, so it's a great deal.
And much like Coach Saban, he'll remind you, he's not doing it for the money. I mean, he coached high school basketball not that long ago, teaching and coaching at Romulus High School up in Michigan. So the money is a byproduct of success, but it's not the reason he does it. And I guarantee you he's coaching harder or just as hard as he ever has, probably more so. And this Alabama basketball team, Rodney, they've got 2 years ago, got to the round of 16, lost to UCLA in overtime. UCLA went to the Final Four. They were a number 2 seed. Right now, if the tournament started, they'd be a number 1 seed. You'd probably get to play right here in Birmingham in the first and second round at Legacy Arena. This is a team, you got to go out and prove it. But I would say right now they're every bit deserving of their ranking. They're one of the 3 or 4 or 5 best teams in the country.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it, Gary. I mean, after you see 23 games and you see the way they've responded to some adverse conditions in a very positive way, I think. This is a team that really hasn't been challenged in some of these games, Gary, but again, I think, too, like I've said many times, how do you respond to success? They've done it extremely well.
Yeah, I want to ask you about long-term success. And I'd say he's already building on that. 2 years ago, they were the SEC tournament and SEC regular season champions. Got a chance to do it again. But the way he recruits, much like Coach Saban, you can't just have one class here and there. You got to do it every year. And Oats has shown the ability to bring in top talent every season.
Continuing to recruit well. I think you just hit the nail on the head. You have the players. You have the chance to be really, really good. And he's recruiting extremely well. And the way they're playing right now, they're only going to continue to attract really good players.
All right, Rod. Now let's get to Coach Talk with Nate Oats, the head coach of the Crimson Tide, sharing his thoughts about the game coming up tomorrow night. Alabama has to go to Auburn on Saturday, and they go to Tennessee next Wednesday night. A lot of fans are looking ahead to those 2 huge games. But this Florida team is playing well, and you certainly can't overlook the Gators.
Florida's a very good team that's getting better and better. They've got a new coach. They got a new system that, took them a little longer to kind of, I'm sure, learn the system they want to put in. But they know what they're doing over there, and they got players, and they're playing their best basketball right now. So this is not going to be an easy win at all.
All right, last week Florida had a huge win over Tennessee in Gainesville, and then they took Kentucky to the wire on Saturday night at Rupp. So they're playing really well. Can't overlook them. Colin Castleton, one of the better players in the league, certainly one of the better big men. Alabama, 21-3 overall, 10-0 in SEC play. But Florida ranks in the top 10 in the country in defense, and they're going to get after Brandon Miller. And Alabama's offense with Miller hasn't always been great. A lot of games it has been, but when Miller's been slowed, other people have had to pick up the slack, and you can bet Florida will be looking to gear down on Miller tomorrow night, right? Tomorrow night, again, because you got Auburn coming up on the road. You got Tennessee coming up on the road. I think that's why Coach Oats is preaching. You better take care of business tomorrow night first.
Absolutely. I mean, again, they've responded well in these situations. People have questioned them some when they went on the road to Arkansas. several weeks ago, as you recall. A lot of people thought, well, maybe that's going to be a trap game for them. It wasn't. They played really, really well on the road, and I expect them to play well against Florida.
Of course, Alabama won Saturday in Baton Rouge over LSU 79-69, despite not having a field goal in the final 7.5 minutes of that game. We're going to take a look at some highlights from that game, Rod. And listen, they were on a pace there with about 7.5 minutes to go at 75 points to score maybe about 90. But to be able to go 7.5 minutes, they only had 4 free throws made in the final 7.5 minutes of that game and still win the game, that tells you they're not a one-trick pony. Yeah, they won it by 10. They're not a one-trick pony.
I mean, hey, listen, that's a loss in a lot of other seasons that we've seen. But, yeah, I mean, you know, they played good defense. They certainly went on that scoring drought. But like you said, Gary, still won by 10.
Yeah, they can beat you with offense. They can beat you with defense. They can beat you with depth. I mean, this is a complete basketball team. Certainly they like to push it, but they can play slow-down basketball when they have to. All right, let's get to the Alabama women as they are on a roll. This is a good team on the women's side. This past Saturday, or past Sunday, I should say, the Alabama women traveled to Columbia on Sunday and picked up a big win against the Missouri Tigers, 79-69. Brittany Davis had herself a day as she led the charge for the Crimson Tide with 33 points, 23 in the second half. Alabama was perfect from the free throw line, going 18 of 18. Now, listen, they lost to South Carolina, they lost to LSU, but everybody has. This Alabama women's team, Rodney, looks like they're headed to the NCAA tournament as well.
Wow. I mean, listen. A lot of people have been asking, when's this program going to kind of really get to that next level, Gary? And that's pretty impressive in the direction they're going right now.
Yeah, they've really, under Christy Curry, established an identity as a winning program. All right, still to come on TITV. Get ready for the softball season to kick off. Team 27 is ready to go beginning this Friday at the Rhodes House. And we will talk more about that. And we'll get to your phone calls, your emails, and your tweets. That phone number again, 205-348-9882. Or you can email us at the address on your screen or even tweet at us. Use the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with phone calls next on Tiger Insider Television.
I had Gary on the radio this morning.
Yeah. And that is the right way to say it. You had Gary on the radio. No, that is correct. No, that's 100%.
Okay, I'm going to say that from now on.
That is the way.
Love Murph. Softball busy doing interviews this week, like on the Gary Harris Show, and getting ready for the season opener. Of course, practice today. We were out there. You heard Stu talking with Coach Murphy as the Tide gets ready for the leadoff classic on Friday and Saturday at the Rhodes House. Georgia Southern and Lehigh will be in town. Alabama will play both teams twice. So it'll start on Friday to wrap up on Saturday. The 23 roster has some good returning players. There's no doubt about it. A great nucleus, but also 8 newcomers, including 5 freshmen and 3 transfers. Softball is back. And we're back on TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. It's time to get to the phone calls. And BT is going to lead us off here in Tuscaloosa. Hey, BT, what's going on?
Gary and Rodney, how about y'all?
Doing great, my friend. What's up?
What I want to ask Gary and Rodney, if Vanderbilt beats Tennessee, then we keep winning, then we could very well wrap it up, right? We got to.
Yeah, BT, still a little work to do. Alabama's got a 2-game lead in the loss column over, I think, Tennessee and A&M. For sure, there might be one other team in there, but yeah, 8 games to go. Yeah, Alabama's in the catbird seat, but it can change quickly. You know, you lose at Auburn on Saturday, or obviously tomorrow night, which you hope you don't do, or lose to Tennessee, or lose both those road games. And those teams, Auburn's got 3 losses, Tennessee's got 2. They could be right back nipping at your heels. Plus, Tennessee would have the tiebreaker on you if they beat you head up. So I like Alabama's position, Rodney, but it's by no means a given that Alabama's going to win this regular season championship yet.
A lot of strong competition in the SEC. You kind of listed those there, Gary. So certainly they have to finish it out.
All right. I told we're going to go ahead and take our break, but we'll come back with more phone calls and emails on this edition of Tiger Insider TV. 205-348-9882. Give us a call. We want to hear from you next. Welcome back to TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. So let's get to our email question of the day. And it is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. KDM Service Corporation for all your heating and air conditioning needs. KDM serving your family like our family. It's actually from Twitter. Goal Line Stan wants to know, Rodney, you touched on this already, but were the OC and DC hires best available or just enough to try to get through the 2023 season? Hey, they may only last 1 year. We don't know, but I don't think Nick Saban ever hires a coach just thinking 1 year.
Yeah, like we covered him. I mean, I think both these guys are excellent. They're in demand. I mean, yeah, how many times has Kevin Steele been offered jobs around the country? Everyone's pursuing him. It seems like when they have a defensive coordinator opening. Mario Cristobal hired him at Miami last year. And Tommy Reese, what an up-and-comer. I think he's a guy that could be a rising star.
All right. What are we going to do here? Okay, let's get to a phone call. We got Francis in Alabaster is going to finish us off here in our call segment. Hey, Francis, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay, and I'm not from Alabaster. I'm from Bessemer.
I'm sorry. Francis in Bessemer. Good to have you.
Yes. My question is how is Eli Gold, and is he going to be back for
All right, we hope so, Francis. I actually texted, oddly enough, today with Eli, and he just said he is working to come back, and he appreciates all the prayers and all the support and all the people thinking of him. So we're going to give Eli a thumbs up if he's watching and hope that he is back in the press box this coming football season. We'll be back after this. Thanks for the phone calls. Alabama Gymnastics had its first sellout since 2014 this past Friday night. The Power Pink for Breast Cancer Awareness meet against Auburn, and Alabama gets its highest score of the year to beat the Tigers. And Rodney, they keep the streak intact. Alabama has never lost to Auburn inside Coleman Coliseum. Wow. That is good stuff. Roll Tide. Suni Lee, the Auburn Olympic gold medalist, had a 10, but Alabama had some 10s as well. All right, Rod, real quickly before we go, Super Bowl, the Eagles and all the Bama guys against the Chiefs. Who do you like on Sunday?
I got the Eagles. I think they're the best team in the league. And, you know, I know they got Patrick Mahomes on the other side, but I think Philadelphia is the better team.
Ought to be fun. All right, that is going to do it for the show. Reminder, you catch a replay tonight at 10:30 here on WVUA 23, or find it anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. We're going to leave you tonight with our Tower Cam shot at Tuscaloosa. Tider Insider TV will be back next Tuesday night at 6:30. Good night, everybody.